Okay everyone, hello. This book review is on I Love Dick by Chris Kraus. I am very late to the party on this one because this has been a phenomenon for about 20 years. This book was written in the mid-90s, but it was only in 2015 that the book finally got its first UK print, and since then it has been shared and adored by women across the country as it has been by women across the States. So I was very late to this. I picked it up in Waterstones just before Christmas, and I've had it on my to-read pile for a couple of months, and I finally got around to reading it this week. And I was really excited about it because obviously it's a book that's considered to be an incredibly popular feminist observation of the portrayal of women. Of course I wanted to read it, and also because there was a quote on it from The Guardian that this is the most important book about men and women written in the last century. That's obviously quite a big statement. So I thought, oh no, definitely want to read this. Okay, so I didn't really get it, which was really frustrating because I don't think this book is as good as its hype, and that was very difficult for me to get past. And that's always unfortunate when a book has so much hype around it and you have such high expectations. And in fact, conversely, for the first 50 pages, I was like, this is not good. It gets better, but I'm still stuck with the not as good as its hype point. So what is this book about? Well, it's about a love triangle. It's about a fictional love triangle, supposedly with a heavy base on reality, between a married couple called Chris and Sylvain and another man called Dick. Chris and Sylvain are in a very interesting marriage. It's clearly sexless, but there's obviously a great openness and frankness between the two of them. And Chris forms a very obsessive love. Is it love? She clearly becomes consumed with this obsession with Dick, who is an academic like her husband and who she meets through her husband. And this book then takes the shape of an endless supply of letters that Chris writes to Dick and sometimes Sylvain. It follows their love triangle and how Chris becomes increasingly desperate for sex with Dick, for emotional connection with Dick, and commandeers Sylvain to help her in that pursuit. That is the style of the whole book, just an endless series of letters. And of course, what these letters slowly reveal is not only how deep and how more entrenched Chris's obsession becomes, but also the power dynamics between men and women, particularly in a relationship. In that, it's nicely set up. There's a very lot of slow reveal of the dynamics between Chris and her husband, between Chris's husband Sylvain and Dick, and on Dick's behaviour with other women. But it's very hard to get past the fact that the character in here, Chris, is a very angry, obsessive woman. And that, of course, is probably the point. This book was written in the mid-90s, where reclaiming the angry woman archetype was incredibly popular, and everything from music from Alanis Morissette and Hole to other seminal works by Elizabeth Wurtzel. And this book very much is of that time. It's clearly taking what is very portrayed as a very sort of angry woman that's seen very much from the male point of view, and taking it from the female point of view and demonstrating why women get so angry in relationships, how awful men are, and what women are left dangling with because of male behaviour. I feel I'm beginning to make this book sound a bit better than what it is, because although it is very smartly written, I couldn't get past the fact that the characters are hard to care about. So because Chris is examining a very explicit theme here, and that's very clearly her focus, I'm not convinced that there's so much in her character that she's created, this Chris character, which may or may not be based on herself. How much of it is sympathetic and how much you warm to. There are points where I suppose inevitably you do want to shake the character and say, please move on. This is not good behaviour. And what I really felt as I was reading this is, you could argue that Chris becomes stalking of Dick, that she becomes a stalker. And I just felt, with everything that happened the other way round on how we demand men are treated when they stalk women, I'm not sure that we can get away with being sympathetic about a woman who stalks a man. It would be very tricky to have a double standard here. Stalking is very dangerous. It's It's something that really needs to be discussed and dealt with more effectively. And I'm not sure that therefore we can be entirely sympathetic about a female stalker when we demand that male stalkers are rightly treated quite harshly and with police presence and all that. I love Dick. If you go onto Goodreads, if you read the papers, obviously you're going to see a lot of great reviews for this. I understand why it's popular, because it gives voice to a lot of those feelings when you do feel that men have led you down the garden path, that men can be cruel and manipulative, and all that is true. I get it. But relationships and life are more complicated than that, and I'm not sure that complication is necessarily brought out in a particularly engaging way in this book. I'm glad I read it, because everyone is talking about it, and I hope that if you are interested that you read it too. But if you are going to read it, manage those expectations. For me, very much a book of the 90s, which was a great era, but obviously very clear in reclaiming this angry woman archetype, which this book very much fits into. I Love Dick by Chris Kraus.